David, were you an animal person before this happened?
Not that I sort of kept pets or, we had cats and dogs and things when we were kids, but no, not really.
Yeah, so it's interesting how there's this fascination has developed just from that moment where one jumped on your leg.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why it's important to me, as Fiona says, people say you shouldn't feed wild animals, but if you can have a small interaction with them and you can teach that to the next generation of kids coming up, then hopefully they won't do horrible things. So.
There's one magpie you would have loved to have met. Fiona and I talked about it on a program or two ago, which was the albino that was found in Ashbourne, I think it was.
Yes.
And how does that fit into the situation? What happened there with the...
I don't know, but I want one. There's also supposedly a group of brown magpies near Geelong somewhere.
Okay.
Living on a winery property, and they've got
too much wine, make them go brown.
Could well be it.
I might go and do a trade.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to visit
Get
them.
a brown one.
Yeah.
Because they do have a bit of brown in the feathers.
They do. Some actually
up.
have browner feathers than others. When they're young, you see that some are absolutely black and white, and some are kind of brown and more browny grey.
So, David, are you getting involved with Fiona and the Wildlife Network? Is it through an interest there, or Fiona, are you able to call on David's talents?
Well, we sort of did call on David's talents, and we sort of worked together in catching a little a magpie, a baby from 2 years ago, who unfortunately got caught in some tree netting, and someone had cut her out of the tree netting, but she still had it around her feet. We tried a number of times to catch her unsuccessfully because she could fly okay, and interestingly enough, she'd actually had a hard time when she was a fledgling. I'd actually basically reared her in situ, so to speak. So I'd go down there every day and give her food and put her up at night, and then I sort of put, sticks going up into trees so she could tree hop. She was in an area where people were putting out a lot of bread, so she had a severe nutritional deficiency. All the people in that street have learnt now. So she's become a little bit of a mascot for that, I think. And but then she got this netting caught around her feet, so we actually called on David. She couldn't stand up, and she kept sitting down all the time. It was a big problem. So David actually helped to catch her and ended up making a variety of different kind of nets and traps, and it did take a couple of months, didn't it?
Yeah, about 3 months.
And you have to be very, very patient, and which was just brilliant. She's very, very lucky. So it was great to have someone who could put in that time, because David was just up the road from there, so could put in the time and the commitment, which is sometimes very difficult for us because we have so many other animals and things to rescue. And I'll hand the story over to you now, David.
Well, you'd caught Scruffy, and so Scruffy was very aware of nets. Right. Scruffy couldn't walk. Scruffy was sitting there, just a pile of wet feathers, because she couldn't groom. They need to stand to be able to groom. Miserable. So I was feeding her up, and I've got a ute with a tray ute, and I put the net on the back of the tray flat, and I could drive down the street. She would be 2 feet away from the ute, at my feet. I'd feed her. I'd put my hand on the back of the ute, squawk, squawk, squawk. She'd be off up the tree instantly, as soon as she saw a net. So I had there's about 6 steps of building nets and boxes and things like this. But in the end, I built a milk carton with a hinge top and a net that flew up. And I caught her, and we took her to the vet and had the netting taken off, but she's lost that foot.
Yeah.
She can now stand and things, but on Fiona's advice, because I was worried about just feeding her mince, Fiona's introduced me and her...
Well, the mince and the insectivore that David was giving,
Yeah, I'm feeding her mealworms now, and she just hops around, loving them.
And we'll be getting her some crickets. Yeah.
But it's funny, because I fed her the other day, and the other members of her family come up and steal her food.
Right.
Because she's right at the bottom of the pecking order. So I threw some mealworms, and they all came running up. And they're standing there with their wings on their hips.
Wings on their hips.
Trying to work out what she was eating. So they take the mincemeat, but they don't know what the mealworms are. So,
right.
So I'm doing Insects 101.
Right.
Because Scruffy, she did get off to a bad start, and because of her nutritional deficiency, she has always pretty much had to have her food supplemented to get her nutritional level back. So yes, that's why I suggested to David to start giving her some mealworms. We'll get some crickets to her very soon.
Right.
But she's a very funny little magpie, but very, very alert, and that's why she was so shy of the net, because we tried unsuccessfully a number of times to catch her. As soon as she saw the net,
she was bitten twice shy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I put the net up against a hedge with a little fine black cotton and a bit of wood to pull, and had a cardboard box with sort of the meat on the top of the cardboard box. So she would hop up on the top of the cardboard box, which they're so light that she'd either collapse when I was carrying it, or she'd take off as soon as it moved. So the plan was to pull the string when she was on the box, which she was happy to do. But the little baby one the year after just trotted along and tripped over the black thread and brought the whole thing down.
Oh no!
Demonstrating the whole net. So I had to up the ante.
Sabotage. Yes.
Sabotage.
Well, we've run out of time, unfortunately, David. That was absolutely fascinating. Fiona,
But just sorry, one thing on that is just the fact of fruit tree netting can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Not only, people wouldn't think that a magpie would really get caught in fruit tree netting, but they can, as can possums and bats and all sorts of birds. So if the netting is not secured tightly over a tree and it is just thrown over loose, it can be big. If you do find an animal trapped in it, please do not just cut it out and let it go. Please call a wildlife rescuer to come so that the animal can be attended to, because often, as in the case of Scruffy, the netting actually caused the circulation to be cut off, which caused the loss of her foot. So that all needs to be attended. So please call a wildlife rescuer. Do not cut it out and let it go.
Yep, good advice.
Thanks, mate.
Fiona, we'll catch up with you again next month. And David, I'd love to have you back in again to talk about your... What do you call it? Flock or tribe of magpies? What is it? Family of magpies. Absolutely fascinating story. Fiona, I've done my research this week.
Oh.
Because in the past we had Kylie's birthday. I had the wrong month. I said Mark Seymour grew up in Castlemaine. He grew up, as you corrected me, and I found out he grew up in Benalla.
Oh, you did?
So he did.
What have you got for us this week then,
Today
Mike?
I've got Ian Moss's birthday from Cold Chisel.
Oh.
And he was born on the 20th of March.
Oh, very good.
1955.
And was he born in Castlemaine?
I didn't. I'm not going to go anywhere near. I'm going to stay right away. But I know it's his birthday today, and so
happy birthday!
Happy 58th birthday to Ian Moss.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Mike.
No worries. And also, by the way, this was number one for Ian Moss at the time of his birthday in March 1989. Thanks, Fiona, very much.